What's going on, beautiful people? Beautiful people. It is a new week. Hope all of you are out there just thriving in 2023. But it is 2023, a new year. But I wanted to bring back a familiar face. Kevin, he's been here before. He's a man of many talents, a jack of all trades, as I like to say. The last time I think I actually, caught up with them was at the Black Cannabis Week. So nice to see you again.
Nice to be here. Nice to see you as well. And yeah, you're correct. It was Black Cannabis Week in beautiful Philly, the city of brotherly love. We had a good time, I must say. Um,
Yes.
and then we got to connect with a lot of Black cannabis professionals from all over the Eastern Seaboard. So that was something. And we partied a little bit too. Were you there for the after parties? Because they were tremendous.
I want to say I went to at least one. Yeah, because we stayed over. Yeah. We definitely went to at least one.
Yeah, I went to one. I think the night you were being honored, actually, and you
Oh,
missed. And you missed.
oh, that,
I don't know
oh,
if you
that
remember
was
that. The
no, no. I
night
thought
before the
honored.
event.
Nomination. It was nominated, not honored necessarily.
I feel you, but to be nominated, is that not an
Oh, it's to
honor?
be nominated. Yes, you're right. I just didn't win. That's why I was like,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah, yeah. So he's like, all
You're right.
right, I don't need to be there.
No. For me, I think I had the kids that week, so it was
Ah,
even
okay.
a lot of coordination to be able to make it up there for those that time that I did. Um, so yeah, but I was there in spirit, and next year I'm
Yeah,
gonna plan accordingly. I'm gonna make sure to make that Friday event because the Friday event looked really good. It seemed like there was a lot of quality people out there, and
yeah,
you know,
man.
one of the big
It
things
was.
I've seen in the cannabis space is just like there's 3 degrees of separation. Have you
Mhm.
have you realized that?
Yeah, like everyone that I know knows you pretty much or knows of you. And you can get connected to anyone that you really want to collaborate with within
Yes.
your network already, whether you think so or not. Especially, I mean, I'll take it as far as like sometimes even going out west from my connections on the East Coast. Uh, the 7 degrees or 3 degrees of separation, whatever you want to call it, it extends way beyond just the DMV area or just the East Coast when it comes to cannabis. And I think that it's very important for us to leverage that community because you're a politician. You know how important the size of the voice is in the battle, right? Like if you're trying to make some change, one person can do a lot for sure, but one person that's backed by a nation of a community can do a lot more. And I'm sure you've seen that.
No, I agree that speaks power. Of course, sometimes you just need one match to spark the flame, right? But you need that collective power. You need that collective fire to keep burning. That's the way I
Absolutely.
like to think about it. And so I just took a trip recently. A weekend trip. Sometimes those weekend trips are needed, right? Like
Absolutely.
a lot of times we think about like being able to get away and we have to find like you know good amount of days. No, sometimes just take that weekend, so
Just to
just
recharge. Yep.
go to a different area. But I was able to go to Massachusetts and
Uh-huh.
Maine. And one of the things while I was there was, everywhere I am, I want to see what the cannabis laws are for one. Just being a
Hmm.
cannabis enthusiast and a policy guy, I want to see what the laws are. But two, I want to see what cannabis experiences they have, right? Because I think that there's a little bit that can be learned, from everywhere that they are doing some good things around cannabis,
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
And so Massachusetts, they got Med, they got Rec, and then I think Maine has Med and Rec too. I will stand by this statement, Kev. Massachusetts has the best, cleanest organic cannabis. Here on the East Coast,
Really.
the U.S.
They've had a medical program for a long time, and that probably contributes to that. Because one of the issues that I always find with new jurisdictions that open medical programs is that they are required to cultivate their own cannabis naturally. So it
Yes.
means that people are essentially starting from scratch. You have an entire market starting from scratch, whereby the standard of California has been long set, right? And I think that's one of the difficulties navigating these new markets is that, people have a certain standard of quality that they associate with the black market. And then when the white market occurs, and also I think we should stop calling it black market and white market, by the way, but we'll get to that later. But when the new markets emerge, people have to essentially, unless you're shipping growers in from California, which they did in Michigan quite a bit a few years ago, but like for DC, everyone's learning from scratch. Like I have some friends that are putting together a cultivation center right now in DC, and they're in contact with the government. They're doing everything by on the right side of the law, but they're starting from scratch. Like they're learning how to grow to eventually have an industrial size grow in the next year to 18 months. So it's crazy. It's crazy. I mean, they're very committed.
Is that the program? Is that the program that was next to Capsule Dam? Is that the?
No. So it's not next to Capture Dam, but it's I don't want to so it's affiliated with a company, right, that operates in the gray market. So I don't exactly want to
I understand. Much. Hey, I get you.
But they're
I need the information after. I need that's what I'm saying.
They're transferring over to the mainstream market once that happens. And the interesting thing is, like, now in DC, because I live in DC, the people I believe who are going to win are the ones who are preparing as if the laws and everything is already in place, as if all regulations are in place. You have to prepare ahead of time. You have to dot all your I's and cross all your T's way before the bills are signed. Because right now we have a bill that was passed by our council to allow for this, to allow for more cultivation centers, to allow for recreational sales. But DC has a very specific circumstance because, no taxation without representation has to go through Congress and all that. So we can still face issues with the Harris rider, which has been blocking our progress on cannabis for many years. But the people that I believe and the companies that are going to win are the ones who are putting together, the groundwork for testing facilities, for cultivation centers from now, before things are completely perfect in place. The ones who are working right now are the ones who are going to win.
Yeah, agreed. And so one of the things that, of course, I'll come back to Maine and highlight them, talk about my favorite brands. But one of the things I was talking to somebody about what to look forward to, in the Maryland market, because of course in the Maryland market we'll have a few things popping up, right? In July, legalization happens. We voted overwhelmingly, this November that we should legalize as a state. I think it was like 73% of Marylanders, I believe. Yeah, so it was a very, very good percentage. But the biggest thing that somebody said, and it kind of made me think, was they said, social equity. We want the social equity. I said, without a doubt, we want social equity. Social equity is a buzzword. So what I basically said to them was, what exactly do you want? They want unlimited licenses. I said, okay, I entertain that. I said further than that. How are you gonna basically make sure that people who are legacy and people that are social equity are able to actually get past starting point or applicant or conditional phase, and they provided some examples. And then one of the things is I asked them is like, how do they feel about micro licenses? And then outside of micro licenses, how do they feel about the cottage businesses, right? And I explained to them what the cottage businesses were. And
explain to me too. What is the cottage business?
Sure. And so basically a cottage business, like think of it, I have a friend who has a CBD hemp company. And at this point you can legally sell CBD hemp, right? She goes to the farmer's market, sells her products. She sells her products at other fairs and festivals. And so if we had cottage business licenses, we can allow people just like her, have CBD and hemp, but also THC products to be tested and sold, in the recreational medical market, right? And
kind of like a pop-up license of sorts.
Yeah, it would be like, yes, it would be necessarily a pop-up license of sorts, but like I would think of it like a micro they like most of them would be micro cultivators to an extent, right? And then they're just making products out of the plants that they are cultivating. And so it's essentially like kind of tied to home growth for the most part, because most of the people that I know that would be cottage businesses, like let's just say they've run a CBD, and a credible pastry company, but then they want to start learning how to do the infusions and stuff like that. So with that being said, they could be like that cottage business, right? And so
Okay. And then they could offer like some sort of like kind of like a temporary, you know how like if you want to do an event, you can get a temporary liquor license. It's like an extension of that, maybe a temporary license or a
yeah,
smaller license that doesn't have the same barrier for entry if you want to have like a smaller business.
exactly. So think of it as like, imagine people starting with a food truck for years before they got a restaurant, right?
Yes,
And and,
that makes
and, that,
sense.
and that food truck helped them, get to that stage where they can, afford the overhead of a restaurant and more employees and to actually branch out. And so it's a way for those smaller businesses to kind of scale up organically. If so, they're doing well. And like one of those people I could think of is, have you ever heard of Lucy CBD or Lucy's lozenges or Lucy
Lucy's
Escudero?
lozenges, I've heard of. Yes, I've heard of that
Exactly.
brand.
So I would think of like her as like one of the like more like macro college businesses, right? Like I'm sure she started out of her garage or something. Like now she's, award winning and like giving speeches all over the US. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
um,
And it started right out the garage, right? Or
exactly,
something like
exactly.
that, or something like that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. But so what that person proposed was, they said, imagine if these cottage businesses were able to get selling first. Like imagine if they were the first ones to be able to sell in the market. Like I would think that would be real equity. And I was like, that's a
Yes.
what
And
I'm gonna I said I'm gonna come back. That's not a terrible idea.
quick question for you. As far as social equity, do you know if New York, because I know New York just opened the first two legal recreational dispensaries. They just opened in the past few months, and they had a mandate to have some percentage of the dispensaries go to social equity candidates, specifically people affected by the war on drugs. Returning citizens. Um, do you know anything about the New York system by any chance? Because uh, I know that they just started. And I was wondering, this is kind of like an off-topic thing, but I was just wondering if any of those two dispensaries they just opened are legitimate social equity dispensaries, because they were supposed to be. The first ones were supposed to be.
That's probably a good question. So I have to check in with my New Jersey folks. I would say that I think at least one of them were like minority owned.
Yeah.
Um, I do believe I remember that, and I think it was the very first one. I believe that one was minority owned, like by him and his wife, I believe.
Okay.
I don't remember the second one, but I will check in with my New York folks. So that's a great question. I
Okay.
know that New Jersey had been doing a lot better with like incorporating people who were quote unquote legacy market, who had fueled the economy, long before we had talks of legalization,
Yes.
so.
Which is a nice way to say it. It's funny. I have to give a little bit of credit to the DC Council, because as difficult as let's not say difficult, as the issue has been over the past few years, with these like emergency votes and like threatening to shut down the gift shops in DC, they actually collaborated with the I-71 committee, which is a committee made up primarily of Black and brown citizens in the cannabis industry, specifically in the gift shop industry in DC, to write the law together, which is like one of these very rare moments of like civic cooperation that you really just got to applaud. Because for the longest, it felt like the DC Council was trying to gut, kind of the heart of the DC cannabis industry. But
Which was
I
the
got
gray
to give
market.
him credit,
Which
which
was the
was the
gray
gray
market.
market. Yeah.
Just to be clear.
I mean, because I love all of the medical dispensaries in DC as well, but they could never handle the size of the market. the just demand was too high, mostly coming from people from your side of town, Maryland and Virginia folks, which
Of
obviously
course.
that's going to change soon. But
Well, Kev, what I wanted to ask you, people might not know, give them the Reader's Digest. What is this white, gray, and black market in
all
DC
right.
and
So,
other places coming up?
okay. So a lot of other places have this too, but DC was one of the first places to have a very large gray market. And first off, we'll say what the black market is. The black market is, you call your boy or your dealer and he comes through, or you meet him in an alley and it's shady and
Yeah,
who knows what could happen. That's the black market. The white market, which we have to find a new term for that, but the white market would be what's completely legal. So in DC, it'd be the medical dispensaries, right? And the gray market is
mm,
kind of in between. So the gray market in DC is the gift shop economy. And what we have in DC is a law that was passed in 2014, I-71, that allowed for individuals to grow at home, have up to 2 ounces on their person, gift up to 1 ounce to another person. But there was no law for recreational sales. So some creative individuals decided that they would do something like sell you a marker
mm-hmm.
for $60 and then gift you some portion of cannabis. And it came in all types of different forms. Like the first iterations of it were, people selling candles, people selling shirts or offering services, even people selling speeches, which I think is pretty ingenious because it requires no
Oh, I remember
inventory.
that one. I didn't remember that
Yeah.
one. Damn.
Yeah. And so that market has grown tremendously to the point now where I'm not sure what the numbers are exactly, but we have in excess of 50, maybe close to 100 shops, possibly even more. I couldn't even tell you, but they're everywhere. And the police have decided to kind of take a hands-off approach. So we were going through it with the council for a while, where the council was like, oh, we need to enforce the law and shut down gift shops. But the public reacted and said, no, we don't want you to shut down gift shops. People called their councilmen and councilwomen and signed petition to prevent this from happening. But they threatened it like over the past 3 years, I would say like 3 or 4 times,
Yeah,
to the point where they were about to sign emergency bills. And on the day of vote, they would either, lose by one vote or cancel the vote. Like it was like a movie for people
yeah.
in the industry who were waiting to hear what was happening. So the gray
I remember
market,
Chair Mendelson. And he was, whew,
yeah.
he was
But I
on that
mean,
too. Sure.
it seemed like he was trying to destroy that market. A lot of people said, oh, he's in the pocket of the medical dispensaries. That was one of the criticisms of him. But I got to give him credit because on this bill, they came together. They figured out a pathway for gray market businesses to go into the mainstream and to be legitimate,
Yeah.
regulated businesses. They have a social equity component. So, you know, this bill is probably, it's not perfect, but it's like one of the most comprehensive full bills that addresses the issues of the people on the ground, the actual people who are in these shops making DC cannabis move.
Well, let me ask you this. DC Cannabis. I had been in that gifting community long before being a medical patient. So big
Yeah.
ups to DC. I appreciate y'all. I do think you guys have a good ethos around home growth and people learning to grow their own cannabis. I'm still a big proponent of that. You know, you should all learn how to grow, right? You should all learn how to grow your own food, to sustain yourself. That's important. The big question I have for you is, what do you foresee, or what have you seen to be some of the biggest obstacles for minorities in the cannabis industry?
I would say funding. Funding would probably be the biggest hurdle, just because for the most part, you know, financial literacy is moving and it's growing, but in our community, a lot of us are not familiar with how to get from point A to point Z when it comes to like funding requests for a business, especially for a cannabis business. But
Sure.
other than that, I would say DC over the past few years has proved like fairly friendly to the Black cannabis entrepreneur, at least on paper. Like they want Black entrepreneurs in cannabis, but initially they wanted Black entrepreneurs in cannabis in the medical arena, right?
The
Uh,
medical.
and
Okay.
the gift shop economy is predominantly ran by Black people in DC,
Sure.
predominantly.
Sure.
So when they talked about shutting down these shops, not intentionally, but it quickly became a racial issue because the reality was you'd be putting out you'd be putting Black and brown people out of work, and shutting
Mhm.
down businesses that are a lot of these businesses, you know, they're paying taxes to the city. Like there are a few bad players, but the majority of these businesses are registered with the Office of Tax and Revenue, are registered with the DCRA, and are contributing to the DC community. And those are the businesses that are going to graduate into the regulated industry. I know some shop owners that have been keeping up with, you know, they've been keeping up with additional taxes that are not even owed in the event that if they're approved, they would offer additional tax dollars to the city, like
Wow.
volunteering it. Because if this were like California, if things were taxed at the rate of California, then DC would collect a lot more. So I know some people who are using the California format to put money aside
And then
so that when
California
they
is what, like 30+%.
something crazy like that. Yeah.
And what are you guys, around 15?
Well, we don't have a cannabis tax because there's no recreational sales system or no law yet. So it's
You're
just
right.
regular sales tax.
Ah.
Like
And
there's no
and
special cannabis tax. So I'm saying that some businesses are voluntarily putting aside those funds to present a better case when it's time to file an application.
absolutely. I understand with that, you know. Hey,
Like what government official is not going to want like some business coming in and saying, "Oh, I have another $400,000 to offer the city because we've been collecting these tax dollars while we're in the gray market."
of course. I mean, I
Yeah.
agree. And so, you know, we talked we talked about some obstacles. How can cannabis be used to, heal the community? That was a question that I remember was asked at the Black Cannabis Conference, and I think we spoke on it a little bit. Um, you know, has cannabis healed
Yeah.
you? And how
Oh
do you see
man.
it heal the community? Right? I'd say cannabis heals me every day.
I mean, cannabis heals me every day. I would say that right now I'm in a time of not smoking a lot, but I've been eating a lot of CBD, THC blend gummies, especially for before bed and just for relaxation in general.
Right?
But as far as healing the community, I would say cannabis as an option. Let's just look at it as an intoxicant, right? Let's
Sure.
remove the medical component. As an option, as an intoxicant, can save lives if it's used as a substitute for alcohol. Like I have a lot of friends that I know of. Oh, did I lose you? Looks like I lost
No,
Mark. Oh, there you go. I
no,
have.
I was giving you the spotlight. I was giving you the spotlight.
Oh, yeah, yeah. Let me get the spotlight. Cannabis as a substitute for alcohol can literally save lives. If you are looking for an intoxicant, if you're looking for a way to change your state of mind and you want to party, no one has ever, that I know of, gotten into major altercations due to cannabis. There's not the same amount of car accidents or just disagreements. Cannabis just offers serenity and calm. And obviously, it has its issues. It's not something that should be overindulged in. Everyone needs to be a responsible adult. But I do believe that as far as having it as a viable intoxicant, as a choice that you can make between cannabis and alcohol, you are literally saving yourself and saving future generations by choosing cannabis over alcohol. Alcohol is a deadly, poisonous substance that when it goes into your system, I've learned about this recently because I'm very much into fitness. But when you drink alcohol, your body needs to get the alcohol out of your system before it can break anything else down. So let's say you go out to dinner and you have some glasses of wine with your steak, right? Your body cannot process the steak until the alcohol's out of your system. That's why when you have a big meal with alcohol, you might feel a little groggy, or you might feel weird the next day, or maybe even for a couple days. The body is rejecting it because it's poison. The body does not reject cannabis like that. The body has CBD the body has cannabinoids naturally.
Yes.
Before you even touch cannabis, it has cannabinoids naturally. You know what it doesn't have? Alcohol. You know, alcohol in your body just chilling. You never heard somebody had Jameson in their system?
That's a
Okay,
great
you got to put that. It's poison. Sorry,
wow.
I'm getting fired up.
No, I'm glad you highlight that. I'm glad you highlighted that. You know, that was profound. One of the things I wanted to say is, Kev, you're a serial entrepreneur. So I last time I saw you, I had your own brand of what was it? Own brand of cannabis and vapes.
Oh,
and
the cartridges, yeah. So
yeah.
I manufacture my own vapes, mostly because it started a few years ago because there was that whole issue with people putting vitamin E and various oils in vapes people were getting sick, some people were dying, and then I noticed that vape cartridges were the largest expanding category of product in dispensaries. So I was like, okay. And I got it because, like, you know, they're very convenient. You can smoke them anywhere. But I realized that if I was going to participate in that market, I wanted to know with 100% certainty everything that was in the product. So that's when I decided to start making them. I have to actually give credit to a friend of mine, Phone Homie, aka Rico Valderrama, who recently passed away. Rest in peace, Rico. But he was the one who convinced me to move forward with my own branded products. You know what I mean? If it weren't for him, I would have been scared because he was doing it way, years and years ago. And I was telling him not to.
He's one of the first I met in the game.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, very, very great
absolutely.
dude.
Very great dude, and he could take one hell of a dab, man. One hell of a dab. And so, just to segue a little bit, we talked about the different brands. I also saw one of your episodes that I found to be very intriguing. It was called The Toxic Tavern. And it had
hold on now. Okay, because so I do a bunch of different podcasts. I was doing a podcast with the Outlaw Report, the Sesh, and that's a cannabis-based podcast. That's how we met.
Okay. So wait, this wasn't the Sesh, right?
No. This was my own podcast.
Yeah. Okay.
I was kind of inspired by a lot of the content that I saw on YouTube, where men and women were talking about kind of dating issues and relationship issues. But I found it that a lot of the guys
loved it. That was dope.
Yeah. I mean, I had a lot of fun, and those ladies are good friends of mine. And I'm actually going to be doing more of those. I need to get back with the Outlaw Report to resume doing the sesh. But I just got a new studio.
You already know. I'm right there.
Yeah. I just built out a new studio to shoot what's called the KLM podcast. That's my podcast where I'll be talking about wellness issues moving forward. Like there'll be a couple of toxic taverns too, but I'm going to focus. My niche is going to be wellness, health, CBD specifically, but there'll be some cannabis talk there, yoga, meditation, gratitude, things of that nature. That's kind of because I realize a lot of people have been asking me for advice on those things, offering to pay me to give them advice on those things, asking me if I have a coaching program. And I was like, you know what? Maybe this is the niche that I should be producing content in. So I will, but I'm going to do the Toxic Tavern again, at least once.
I mean, it was very it was very relaxing, and it was something I kind of just stumbled upon. Like it was a different side of KLM, right? Like Different side of KLM, but the guests were great too, right? Like we got to give the
Yeah,
guests
yeah.
credit. The guests were
The
great
guests
too.
were great, and we did it at Capsterdam, so we were able to enjoy flower while we had our episode. So that was great. Capsterdam still has some of the greatest flower available. They teach people how to grow there, and also in the back of Capsterdam, there's a location. It's called the bookstore, where you can check out various flowers, some grown locally, some from all over. And all sorts of products. So yeah, you should definitely check that out. Capsterdam in Adams Morgan.
Yeah, I gotta start taking my grow classes, man. So learn how to cultivate.
Yeah.
So what are the things I wanted to make sure we do again is just getting some rapid questions in. Of course,
Okay.
kind of on the top of the dome. How you feeling? I don't think we asked you these questions, so it's a different set of questions. DC statehood, you a fan?
As a concept, I don't think it'll ever happen politically, because
Understood.
for the same reason, Puerto Rican statehood is not going to happen, because it offsets the balance. I mean, these. It offsets the balance of votes.
Absolutely. But I mean, hey, you guys deserve a vote, man, and
Agreed.
you
And it
guys.
would DC statehood would solve all the issue. Like, the reason why we haven't figured out cannabis regulation is because of the lack of DC statehood. And you have people from Congress from all over the country who are deciding what happens with DC's budget, who've never even set foot inside of the district limits. So it's absurd, but it's been like this since Marion Barry's second term, right?
Yeah. I mean, you're right. My next question is favorite anime.
Listen, bro, I'm just gonna say Naruto because it's the only one I know. I'm
Okay.
not.
You said the right
I'm
one.
older.
The right one, at least.
Listen. I don't know what era it happened where all of a sudden black men were obsessed with anime, but I missed that. They didn't send me that text. You feel me? I was on Power Rangers, is what I was on. I was on the Power Rangers.
Say less.
So when Tommy just died. Tommy just died a few months
Tommy
ago.
did just die. Tommy
the
did
Green
just.
Rangers. Rest in peace, Tommy. Rest in peace, phone homie.
Yes.
But
I want to say black anime is becoming even more popular, and for me, I didn't notice I liked anime until I got older. Right, like I watched the Pokemon, I watched the Dragon Ball Z, I watched the Sailor Moon, the Yu Yu Hakusho. A lot of those were on like American networks. I think it was like Toonami and Adult Swim. So yeah.
I've never actually seen anime, like a full episode of any show or any film. But all my nephews who are in their 20s, they listen to drill music and watch anime.
Hey,
it's a weird combination. It's a weird combination.
Yes. If you see like a lot of younger music videos, younger musical artists, they have a concept.
Uzi has a lot of anime concepts.
Jaden Smith. Rob Banks. Rob Banks. So he's a South Florida. He's a South Florida rapper, and he's also Shaggy's son. So you gotta check him out. Rob Banks with a $ as an S.
Oh,
I'll send you a few.
Yeah, please.
Yeah. And then my last question for you is where's your favorite where's your favorite cultivator from? What state?
I mean,
or not a state, right? Well, which state or not a state?
Well, okay. Before I answer, I'll say this: I recently went to my first dispensary in Jamaica. My family's Jamaican, and Jamaica has a long history with cannabis. It's part of the culture with Rastafarianism. But they passed the laws. It's legit now. It's legal. You can go to dispensaries, and I was very pleasantly surprised by the quality of flower that you can get there. It rivals some of the stuff that we can get in the States. And for the longest, I had a tough time finding high-end flower in Jamaica when I would visit. But now you can go to a shop. And what's great is like
medical or recreational?
It's recreational. Because It actually is medical now that I remember, because they make you fill out this form and you basically
You self-certify.
yes, exactly. But they have lounges where you could sit and you're like overlooking the beach and you can
What?
partake.
Nice.
And I did that with my nephews in June of last year. So shout out to Jamaica. But in response to your question, my area for the best cultivation has got to be California. That's the OGs.
Okay.
I've been to Humboldt. I've been in the mountains. I've seen some amazing things. Um, California still has the best flower in the world.
That's
Period.
fair. That's fair. And I have to take my trip. I went to California when I was young, so I wasn't, a consumer, but I definitely got to go back and check out, Northern California, especially.
Yeah, but listen, don't go by yourself. Like I'll tell you one thing about the hill. They call it the hill, right? If you're there by yourself, everyone looks at you like you're crazy. And some people would say to me, "Oh, it's because you're black. It's because you're black." It's not even a racist thing. Anyone who goes there that's not like accompanied by a known person, they're assuming you're there to poach and to look for grows to rob. And I'll never forget this. So I was at this grow,
That's
uh, visiting these friends of mine, and I wanted to jog because it's very beautiful in Northern California. You're in the forest, there's mountains, there's streams, it's gorgeous. So I wanted to go for a run outside. And I said to my friend, "Yeah, I'm gonna go for a run." He's like, "No." He goes, "No, you're not." I said, "Why not? I'm gonna run in the backwoods. I'm gonna get a good sweat." He's like, "Listen, if you go by yourself, you're not coming back." And he actually asked his wife, who's a runner as well, to come with me. And as we're running, she's waving to people who have like secret farms, like in the cut. Like I would have never have seen them, and she's
what?
waving to people
That's
and
pretty
saying, "Hey,
cool.
hey." Yeah, and then the next day I was allowed to go by myself because I had seen people, and then I would wave, because they knew I was associated with someone who's part of their community. But yeah, if you're gonna go to Humboldt, definitely bring a
I've
tour
heard
guide.
about the Humboldt and the Triangle. I've heard, yeah,
Yeah,
I've
they
heard
call
about
it,
that.
call it Murder Mountain.
Yes, Murder Mountain. But I will say, just there's two things. One, the best soil that I've had to date, whether it be Colorado, whether it be Maine, was soil that was cured correctly, number one. And number two, uh, it was grown in living soil, regenerative living soil, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like those plants were so clean, so organic, so nutrient rich. Um, and that's why I stand by. That's why I stand by that Maine flower, because I was actually able to check out a living soil grow when I went to Maine, and so like I intimately asked a bunch of questions. Man, they are running this grow, and I think the water bill is $74 a month. Like, so it's not only yes, yeah.
How do they do that?
It for one, it's just the practices they're using as far as like catching the humidity,
They
catching the
catch
water.
rainwater and all that stuff.
Yeah, I believe they're using some degree of rainwater. I think that they're also catching the humidity in the room and then reintegrating it back into the plants. And so they're doing a lot of great practices. And one of the things that I can really say is like you really realize the cleanness, right?
Mm-hmm.
When your weed has no I think it's PBR or PGR, right? It has no PGR on it, or it doesn't have any other spray-ons or additives. Like it's just a very clean smoke.
Yeah.
Um,
So you
so
would
that
say
was,
you like Maine over Massachusetts as far as purity and
oh,
cleanliness.
oh, without a doubt, without a doubt. It's and even the people in Massachusetts, a lot of them will tell you that. But there's a good amount of Maine farmers that came from Massachusetts. So,
Uh,
but yeah, to be fair, a lot of Massachusetts people will tell you that they put a lot of care in their cannabis in Oregon. One of the things that I will say that I saw in Massachusetts, I went to the only social consumption lounge. So we need to have that conversation around social consumption lounges in Maryland, because the thought is like it was a beautiful place. It's been open 5 years. Most of the people, or not most people, everyone is membership, right? And the thought is it's a community. It's a community vibe. Everyone felt like safe, and it was a safe space for consumption.
Awesome.
And so, like, social consumption and living soil, those are two things I'm gonna
That's what you
promote.
took from that trip.
Yes.
Yeah, DC and the new law actually allows for lounges as well. It's a pretty comprehensive law, so that will be on deck. And I did want to say that a lot of people, I know that a lot of the gift shops are worried because when you guys have your system in place, that's going to take probably 35-40%, maybe more of our customer base, because a lot of people are coming in from Maryland to go to gift shops. So it's going to be very interesting to see which shops actually survive, because
Sure.
there are a ton of shops now, a lot of
Sure.
great businesses, but a lot of them are just people who found a space and are able to trap. Let's call it what it is. Like,
You're about to say it's able to trap. And not,
for real.
I agree with you, and I understand where you're coming from, because one of the things that I was going to ask was, in this new market we have, can I, as a Maryland patient, self-certify in DC, or no?
I don't know. I don't know, but I would bet that you'd have to be a DC resident to self-certify
Yeah, that's what I would think.
for a DC medical dispensary. I would bet that.
No, that's what I would think,
Yeah.
to some degree. And
You
so,
know,
no, what we're gonna say.
I just have an interesting Massachusetts related story if you have a moment.
Yeah,
In
yeah.
Mass So I had a friend from California who was doing a lot of black market business towards the East Coast and working with someone in Massachusetts. And this guy in Massachusetts, in addition to doing his black market work, also opened a dispensary, a
Okay.
medical dispensary. And he was doing very well. And this was, I'd have to say, around 2015, 2014, 2015. So the guy, my friend, got arrested because the guy in Massachusetts, he got caught with a trailer of cannabis, maybe 1,300 pounds or something, that was being driven from California to Massachusetts. And it got caught in Massachusetts, but the Massachusetts DA did not want to take the case because
Okay.
because of who it was, he had connections to the government, B, because of the laws being changed, and they just had pledged not to take new cannabis cases. So what they did was they called a bunch of jurisdictions that were in the path of this RV, and Illinois is like, oh, we don't want to take it, and then another place, oh, we don't want to take it, and because they would have to find evidence, right, that this RV passed through there. So what they did was they found a receipt for gas in the RV from a state, I believe it was either Utah or Montana, some state, out in the prairie area.
Yeah.
And they called that DA and they're like, yeah, we'll take the case. And, they locked the guy up off the receipt. Now, they never caught him with the cannabis. Like, he was never actually with the cannabis, but the receipt is what put him into a case. And then he cooperated and told on my friend, who ended up doing jail time because they had worked together for the past like 3 or 4 years. So
Enterprise. That's what they look.
enterprise, exactly. So and he went to jail. Let's see, it had to be 2014. He went to jail 2014, so he gets out like 2018, and everything is legal. 2018, 2019,
Yeah.
he had to do real time, and this is a white dude. Yeah, you
I mean,
didn't think that.
it does happen. It does happen to everybody. I will say that if you've seen my show, Jonathan Wall, he's
Yes,
doing
yes, we
20
talked about him. I
years,
remember.
and then now, Mr. Junior Morris Jr. Um,
I don't know that name.
basically, he got charged with kingpin status just solely for cannabis. I think back in like 2018, and this year Tuesday is actually going to be the first time we hear it. There's going to be a bill to decrease that mandatory minimum because his son, I think, was given 20 years to do the mandatory minimum, and basically given that kingpin statute, so they're reducing it to 10 years or that's what the bill hopes to do. Mandatory minimums are terrible in its own self, but like if we can rid away with them, sure, but at least we can decrease it and bring people like him home, or at least earlier, way earlier, because of decreased time and parole. So definitely keep you
Yeah.
up to date on that.
Yeah, please do, man. I really do appreciate you having me on here. Uh,
Of
and I
course.
want to apologize to both you and Gabriel because we did do a conversation at the Black Cannabis Week, and I had some technical difficulties. And it's funny because during the talk that we had, that little mic I had, it was blinking, and I saw you notice it. Do you remember that?
I think, yeah, I think you were like, yeah, it's good, it's good.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was not good. It was not good. So, and I just want to apologize because I know Gabriel's gonna let me have it when I see him next time. But officially, I want you, Gabriel, the entire world to know that I am sincerely sorry for not properly recording that conversation because it was a good one.
And I'd love to come back to capture them and then your own space when you have it, and then
Yeah.
also I'll have a podcast space in Laurel and Columbia, so we'll definitely
that's
be doing
awesome.
some more. Yeah, we're doing some more in persons for sure.
Sounds
And
great,
we can
brother.
even go to the dispensary if you want to go to the dispensary next time. We can go to Remedy. Like we were
Oh,
supposed to drop the recording that I did from Remedy, but just like you said, it was some technical difficulties. But we definitely want to do more interviews there. It was a great setting.
so Remedy is the space that Gabriel had his event at, right? Is that the same space?
Where did Gabe? No, that's in
Because that was a
Capitol.
dispensary.
That's in Capitol Heights. That's Marion, Maine.
Okay.
So
Okay. All right.
Remedy is the one that's in Columbia. They got like 2 in Columbia now, and then they got one in like Baltimore County, like Woodlawn area.
Okay.
And so, you probably remember because it's one of the biggest ones, and they're very good with marketing. I say like it almost looks like MTV. They're like the MTV of the cannabis.
Oh, that's dope.
Cannabis, yeah.
Yeah, I'd love to check it out. Keep me posted, bro.
Yeah, I think Pusha T has some ownership into the company, and so that's why they got this crazy rec feel, I think. But they're a good company. I like them. But the last thing I wanted to say was tell people how they can stay connected with you. How they can get in touch with you. Um,
Oh, yeah, for sure. Social media, Kevin Lance Murray on all social media except Twitter. Twitter, I'm at K_L_M. On Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. You can check me out there.
For sure. Well, thank you so much, Kev. I appreciate you. And I
Thank
look
you for
forward to
having
seeing
me.
you soon. Yes, yes.
All right. Bye, everyone. Take care.
Talk to you soon. That was Mr. KLM himself. Of course, you guys stay well. Make sure you drink your water and mind your business. See you next time.